A man calmly poured gasoline into a trash bin, lit a cigar, took 2 puffs, and tossed it in. He wasn't being reckless, he was making money. Right after, Luke called the fire department, gave them the trash bin's location, then changed clothes before they arrived. As the fire truck passed, he rushed out, jumped onto it, and hitched a ride into a heavily guarded upscale neighborhood. Security was tight, but Luke not only infiltrated it with ease, he landed safely. He pried open a manhole, cut a circle into the sewer wall with a laser, then used special tools to climb up. Inside was a diamond vault. Luke blew the safe open but only took 1 bag of diamonds. He brought them to a black market dealer. The dealer assumed Luke wanted to trade for cash, unaware that Luke had already transmitted the vault's coordinates. Turns out, Luke was a CIA agent, and this was his final mission, shutting down the black market syndicate. But the dealer grew suspicious.
Why is it bidding on the diamonds? These are stolen. Who are you really?
Luke lost the upper hand and risked exposure, but he had a backup plan. He told them he was an intelligence officer, and that if his mission failed, he'd have to take a cyanide pill. The dealer believed him and forced Luke to take it right in front of him, but Luke calmly replied,
I might have taken the antidote.
The mission went off without a hitch. Now, Luke just wanted to retire in peace. Due to his job, his family had no idea he worked for the CIA. His wife couldn't stand his constant travel and had divorced him. His daughter, Emma, had grown distant. All he knew was that she excelled in school and was now working on some kind of water infrastructure project. He knew little else. Luke didn't like Emma's boyfriend, nor his ex-wife's new partner. He wished he could hold on to his family, but when he arrived at the CIA to file retirement papers, his colleague Barry dropped a bombshell. We've got an agent in deep trouble. Who? Codename Panda. They've been undercover in Guyana for a while. In Guyana, a crime syndicate was run by Boro, a kid Luke had once sponsored. Years ago, Luke killed Boro's father, a terrorist, and out of guilt, funded Boro's education. But Boro had grown up to follow in his father's footsteps. Now the CIA needed an operative to rescue Panda, and everyone believed Luke was the perfect candidate. He was the only one who could approach Boro without raising suspicion. Luke didn't want the mission, but Barry warned him that Boro planned to auction off a suitcase containing nuclear weapons-grade material. The damage would be catastrophic. With no other option, Luke accepted the final mission. Boro knew Luke only as his sponsor. He didn't know Luke had killed his father. When Luke arrived in Guyana, Boro gave him a warm welcome, showed him around his operations, and even brought him to an underground boxing match. There, Luke noticed a small but fierce female fighter. Curious, he looked closer, and froze. It was his daughter. "Does my ass smell good?" That's when he realized Emma was also a CIA agent. Stunned and speechless, Luke stammered, "I raised you like this, drinking, smoking, red lipstick." "That's not lipstick." Luke was mortified and wanted to crawl into a hole. Just then, Boro showed up, looking for 2 of his missing henchmen. Luke tried to remain calm, but inside, he panicked. He and Emma had taken out those men the night before and dumped the bodies in a field. Emma had assumed no one would go there outside harvest season, forgetting that floods were common, and the water had carried the bodies away. Seeing the corpses, Boro grew suspicious and sent men to capture Luke and Emma. Fortunately, Luke had already made contact with Agent Panda. Before escaping, he snuck into Boro's warehouse and stole the nuclear suitcase. Together, he and Emma helped Panda's family flee, but enemies were close behind. When a bullet nearly struck his daughter, they made it to the helicopter extraction point, but Boro was already there. Furious at Luke's betrayal, he held Panda's daughter at gunpoint, demanding answers. Luke admitted he was the one who killed Boro's father, and only supported Boro's education out of guilt. Enraged, Boro pointed the gun at the girl's head.
"Why in God's name would you tell me what you did?"
Goodbye time.
Just then, Boro's men were gunned down. Terrified, Boro fled. Though Panda was saved, the threat wasn't over. As long as Boro was alive, he'd remain a danger. The CIA assigned Luke and Emma to continue the mission. There was intel about a train carrying both passengers and nuclear waste to a storage facility. The cargo was enough to fill a massive truck and could contaminate an entire city for decades. Boro wouldn't miss this opportunity. Luke and Emma's job was to stop him and protect everyone aboard. That night, the 2 disguised themselves as passengers. They suspected Boro had a mole on the train. Emma thought it was a guy eating a sandwich, but Luke disagreed, saying they should wait and observe. But before they could confirm anything, Boro's helicopter swooped in above the train. "He's going to attack the train from the air." "Dad, what about the sandwich guy?" Emma's guess was right, but Luke's hesitation cost them the perfect moment to strike. Now, Boro's men were siphoning nuclear waste. Luke opened fire but was overwhelmed, retreating to regroup with Emma. They had 12 minutes left before Boro finished extracting everything. Emma suggested shooting down the helicopter, but their teammate warned that the train was about to pass over rice fields. This was Kazakhstan, one of the world's top agricultural exporters. If the helicopter crashed and spilled the radioactive waste, the land would become unusable for decades. If we can't cut off their hose, then we'll force them to cut it themselves. But how? Let's speed up the train. The helicopter was flying at 300 kilometers per hour. If the train could go faster, the attackers would have to pull their extraction hose back, but by safety regulations, the train was only allowed to go 240 kilometers per hour. To exceed that limit, Luke and Emma had to get into the control room. The two stormed in and knocked out the engineer, who refused to comply. A teammate explained that the colder the magnets, the faster the train could go. All they had to do was pump more coolant into the system. Luke opened the cooling panel and asked how many valves to release, but Barry, who was supposed to assist, was too busy spying on Luke's romantic rival. Seeing the guy take 4 green pills, Barry whispered, 4. Alright, I've opened 4 valves. Why did you open 4? Didn't you just say 4? I didn't say anything. With the truth exposed, Barry confessed that Luke had asked him to monitor his ex-wife's new partner. Emma was furious. They were risking their lives on a mission, and her dad was still obsessed with petty rivalries. Thanks to the 4 open valves, the train accelerated like crazy. Although they had shaken off Boro's men, the train was now a high-speed missile. If it didn't stop in time, it could wipe out the station and the city ahead. A runaway train was more dangerous than any rocket. Luke and Emma had to find a way to stop it. If cold magnets made the train faster, then maybe heating them up would slow it down. Emma decided to climb onto the roof of the train, right where the nuclear waste was stored. She needed to open a hatch connecting to the waste compartment and redirect the extraction hose back inside the train. Luke didn't want his daughter taking such a risk. He remembered bringing 2 magnetic vests. If he crawled up with her, he could hold her steady so she wouldn't fall. But in the end, Emma still had to act on her own.
I got you, baby.
Together, they managed to reroute the hose and slow down the train just in time. After the operation, Luke reported to headquarters. They had stopped Boro from stealing the nuclear waste but had failed to capture him. The director instructed them to stand by for new orders. A few days later, during a briefing, the director revealed Boro's next move. He had kidnapped a physicist who once wrote a paper about how to extract and repurpose nuclear waste. For Boro, this paper was a dream come true. With the physicist on board, he only needed materials to create a powerful weapon. To track Boro down, they first had to get the physicist's thesis. Luke would use it to trace the material sources. If they found the materials before Boro, they could ambush him. But there was a problem. The Moldovan government had banned the thesis, considering it a national asset. It was under heavy guard, in a location without Wi-Fi, making remote CIA hacking impossible. Their only option was to send Alden, the team's most handsome member, to seduce the local security officer. The plan was, Alden would charm the target, gain access to the dormitory, and use a CIA app disguised as a game to extract data from a hard drive. Luke and Emma were only backup this time. The mission seemed simple, until they found out the security officer was a man. He's not even gay. We have to stay flexible. Let me handle this. No way, kiddo. Emma ignored him, threw on Alden's outfit, and went to flirt with the officer. Luke was fuming, but there was nothing he could do. He told her to find out the officer's residence so Ruth, another teammate, could set up a surveillance point across the street. Emma followed the officer back to the dorm and launched the CIA game app to steal the files. When the signal dropped, Luke helped her get it back, but she abruptly cut communications. She knew, you can't catch a tiger without entering its den. Her only chance was when the officer fell asleep.
Who do you work for?
Fortunately, Emma was clever. She used a mix of seduction and veiled threats, warning him not to call for backup. She had already stolen the files. If he reported anything, he'd be held responsible too. When Luke showed up downstairs, Emma had already slipped away unharmed. Thanks to the stolen documents, the CIA learned of Boro's next plan. He was trying to convert nuclear waste into explosives. The key was a compact nuclear reactor, extremely rare and only used in specialized labs. The agency planned to use one as bait, and Dane, a seasoned rogue, was the perfect man to lure Boro in. Luke's team was tasked with the operation, but he didn't want Emma involved. Still, the director insisted. They had to travel to Turkey to break Dane out of prison. Barry used an old trick, stuffing toothpaste into wall cracks, then pouring acid on it to loosen bricks, and got Dane out. Luke handled the extraction. We need you to sell something to Boro. In return, you'll be free, and reunited with your son. Dane knew Boro but would do anything to see his son again. He agreed and called Boro, claiming he had the nuclear reactor he needed. If Boro paid up, the reactor was his. Boro took the bait and set a meeting time and location. Everything went according to plan, until Luke and Emma loaded the reactor onto the truck. That's when they got into an argument about Emma's fiancé. She had accepted his proposal, and Luke wasn't having it. He didn't like the guy and thought he wasn't good enough for his daughter. While they were bickering, two strangers stole the truck. Luke and Emma were stunned. Without the reactor, there was no deal with Boro. Luke ordered the team to track the truck and debated whether Dane should still go through with the handoff. But Barry was still in prison, and roll call was coming. If Dane didn't return in time, the operation would be blown. They had to find the reactor before sending Dane, but Dane didn't want to go back to prison. He warned that if the meeting was delayed, Boro would grow suspicious. Just say I delivered something to a client in Cyprus. My guy got sick, I felt off too, so I called a doctor. He reluctantly followed Emma's plan. Boro didn't suspect anything but only agreed to delay by 30 minutes. He wasn't afraid of catching a disease, he just didn't want to miss the chance to secure the reactor. With no other options, the team decided to pull Dane from the mission and send a stand-in to meet Boro, but when they opened the door to act, Dane had vanished. He had overheard their discussion and, fearing another stint in prison, left a note saying he couldn't keep his promise, and ran. Luke and Emma managed to recover the stolen nuclear reactor. Surprisingly, they found a man who looked strikingly like Dane. If he refused to cooperate, they'd send him back to prison. Once Barry was broken out, they sent in the fake Dane to meet Boro. Agent Alden posed as Dane's sidekick and explained that Dane was worried about getting infected, which is why he kept his distance, but Boro wasn't that easy to fool. Noticing how much darker Dane looked, he demanded a signal to confirm his identity. Thankfully, Emma knew Dane so well that she coached the imposter on the correct gestures. Boro backed off, and the deal went through. But then, the fake Dane started bleeding.
It's bleeding. Don't open the box!
Boro immediately fled, leaving his men to handle Alden. Fortunately, Boro had already been hit with a tranquilizer and collapsed before he could get far. Luke's team captured him and brought him in. Luke thought his retirement was finally within reach, but Boro refused to reveal the identities of his buyers. There were still many dangerous people willing to pay for the weapons, and unless they were caught, the CIA couldn't rest. Luke interrogated Boro. After learning that his buyers used a dark web exchange, Luke made Boro film a video to verify his identity, hoping to lure the clients out, but they underestimated Boro's cunning. Instead of clients, his henchmen showed up. Luke's team was caught off guard as Boro escaped with the nuclear suitcase. Now in possession of both the reactor and the trigger, Boro could build an actual nuclear bomb. Their mission changed from stopping Boro's network to reclaiming the bomb itself. Intelligence revealed Boro planned to sell the weapon within 10 days. Luckily, they discovered that his henchmen would attend a high-stakes poker game in Moscow. It was their only shot. All phones from participants would be placed in a secure container. If a CIA agent could sneak in, they could download the data, which might reveal Boro's location. The team identified a couple attending the game. Luke and Emma were tasked with intercepting them, while Barry and Tina impersonated the couple and entered the casino. They smuggled in a device disguised as a phone to extract data. What they didn't expect, Boro showed up in person. Son of a bitch. Barry, Tina, our target is standing next to you. Do not let Boro leave this place alive. Boro wasn't there to gamble, he was there to close a deal. Tina acted quickly, slipping poison into a drink meant for Boro, but someone else drank it. As the man began to collapse, Barry staged a scene, accusing him of cheating, strictly forbidden at the table. The accused was dragged away, while all other players were allowed to cash out and leave. Tina and Barry escaped. Although they didn't kill Boro, they retrieved crucial data from his henchman's phone, and it was only a matter of time before they tracked him down. In a CIA briefing the next day, the data revealed Boro's location. The director ordered Luke's team to eliminate him. Although Luke once sponsored Boro as a child, he had to follow orders. If Boro remained alive, his nuclear weapon would cause mass casualties around the world. The team knew they'd face heavy fire entering Boro's territory, but they came armed with rocket launchers. Though they responded quickly, Alden was hit. Luke led the team through underground pipes, leaving Ruth behind to extract the bullet and care for Alden. The others pressed on. Despite his age, Luke moved like a pro, swift and lethal. He took down multiple guards and found Boro, but when Boro raised his hands to surrender, Luke hesitated. That moment of compassion gave Boro the chance to flee during a distraction. On his escape route, Boro ran into Emma. He snatched her gun and began choking her. He had always wanted to eliminate her. She had been spying on him all along. But before he could finish her off, one of his own men threw a grenade at Luke. Luke caught it and tossed it back. It rolled toward the nuclear reactor. Oh, shit. The exit was blocked. Everyone panicked. Tina warned them that Boro's bomb used a traditional explosive as the detonator. If it was exposed to heat, the nuclear warhead would explode, killing everyone nearby. But even in that chaos, Luke refused to leave. He had to save Emma. Tina told him to check the ventilation shafts. If Emma was still alive, she'd try to escape through them. Luke rushed outside and began banging on the vent. Inside, Emma and Boro had called a temporary truce and agreed to escape together. Hearing the banging, Emma tapped back using Morse code. Luke recognized it and opened the vent. He told Boro to let Emma out first and promised to save him too. But once Emma was out, Luke broke his promise. "You were like a son to me, but she's my real daughter. Goodbye, you ungrateful bastard." No, wait. There was no time left. They left Boro behind, assuming he was dead. But sometime later, Boro's men stormed Luke's ex-wife's wedding. Turns out, Boro had survived. He'd been buried alive but dug out by his loyal men. However, he was now suffering from radiation poisoning. His last wish was to kill Luke and Emma. He took Luke's ex-wife hostage and forced the father and daughter to fight each other. But Luke gave his ex-wife a subtle signal.
You deserve a medal. You hear me, Tally? A medal.
Boro was finally killed for good, but peace didn't last long. Tina called with bad news. Their identities had been exposed. From now on, they'd have to go into hiding. Where they went next was up to them. And that's the entire story of Fubar Season 1. How did you like the show? On a scale of 1 to 10, what score would you give it? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. See you next time.